right, hello, Internet. This is David Dowd from David James Investments, and today I'm joined by a very special guest.
Hi, everybody. My name is Mia Castillo, and I am based over here in Denver, Colorado, and I work for Equity Insurance Group.
We're going to be talking all about insurance. So strap in, everyone. This is going to be hopefully answering a lot of questions. But go ahead, Mia, introduce yourself.
My background, I kind of started off doing health and wellness, and I stumbled into more sales type positions and jumped into insurance, and I've been absolutely loving it. I've learned a lot, things that I never would have imagined that were in the insurance world because I knew absolutely nothing about home and auto insurance before jumping into Equity Insurance Group.
Hopefully, today we will dispel a lot of the myths about how insurance is a waste of money. It might not be the best investment, but we're not talking about money here. We're talking about peace of mind. We're talking about things like that. So different directions there. But hopefully we'll get rid of some of those myths.
I am excited to do this interview today with David. I feel like I have a lot to add now to the puzzle as I've learned so much about insurance over the last 6 months. And I absolutely love being able to help people, not in a wellness aspect, but now in a financial wellness aspect to hopefully get people in a better place than they were the other day with their finances.
You're 6 months in, and you're now going on your journey as you said, insurance sales.
Yes, yeah, I do insurance sales, and here at Equity Insurance Group, we are a brokerage. So we work with 30 major carriers that help us insure people across all the lower 48 states. So not only can I provide insurance here in Denver and in Colorado in general, I actually do a lot of business outside in Arizona and North Carolina, and I've had a few options in Texas that I've been able to shop around for as well. So it's an amazing company. It feels good to be able to expand my reach and be able to help people from all over, especially since I've lived out east in South Carolina. I'm able to kind of get back, and in a way, it kind of makes me feel like I'm at home when I'm helping people in North Carolina and South Carolina shop for insurance. So it feels good to be able to touch all the bases.
I know you said you came from the health and wellness. So I guess insurance, a little bit of a pivot there. What would you say got you most interested in insurance?
It was a new journey for me, and it felt like a stable journey for me. While I was doing health and wellness, personal training, wellness coaching, I was also working another job or two. I was bartending and even substitute teaching on some days. So getting into insurance just felt stable, and I liked the idea that I could still take on my own career path individually. Like I'm still working under a company. I do have overhead, but it was as close to the individualized workspace that I had as a personal trainer here. So, and I love the idea of having stability too, not having to work multiple jobs and still being able to help people.
What do you love most about your insurance journey so far?
What I love most about it is that I've been able to meet a lot of really amazing people that I probably would have never have met otherwise. The networking has been really fun. I'm obviously like a social butterfly, so the networking has been really fun. I'm able to jump into different groups that I again wouldn't have found. Like I've joined a book club since becoming an insurance agent by networking with other lenders in the area. I'm starting a walking club to hopefully boost people understanding insurance and also letting them know that they do have those people in their community to reach out to if they have any questions. I mean, really, that's been the biggest perk about the job is I'm going out and meeting great people, and I wouldn't have done that as much if it weren't for having the incentive to do so.
What is your goal in the insurance industry at this point?
I've had a lot of time to think about it over the 6 months, and I feel like it has ebbed and flowed with all the different challenges that I've faced so far. But now I'm at this point where, I've built up my base and I love a lot of the people that I work with, and I want to narrow it down and have a handful of people that I can rely on and continue to refer and have business from going forward. And I want these people to also be people who want to keep client retention high. I want to get to know my clients, and I want them to know that when they're working with me or the lender or the realtor, that they have a tight-knit group of friends who also are happy to have them as a friend too, instead of just a client. So I'm hoping going forward, instead of just being a transaction for people, I'm hoping I can have a meaningful impact and possibly even get to know my clients going forward and being someone they can rely on.
A lifelong business relationship. I do feel the same. As a loan officer, it's a lifelong thing. Yeah, you buy a house once, maybe in most of your lives, but maybe you move and there's another
Right.
house potentially. Or maybe you're an investor and you buy a bunch of houses. Or maybe you just go to renting. Whatever it might be, the journey is varied for people. So having that close knit, like you were saying, right, is very, very important, especially when it comes to these larger purchases and these things that if you're not prepared for, like insurance, right, it can be
Yeah.
devastating to your finances. What are some of the things that maybe you find challenging about the insurance industry so far?
Yeah, at least in Colorado, we either have the extreme hail side on the eastern plains of Colorado, or we have extreme wildfire side. So I'm facing a lot of challenges with getting people lower rates in those areas, as well as being able to insure them when they are first-time home buyers at a good rate too. Hail is a huge problem out on the eastern plains, and I've had a handful of options come back for $500,000 homes with premiums around $8,000 to $9,000. And I don't think people realize that you can definitely work your way down and find good coverage, but we're not in a time for a lot of areas here in Colorado where you can get $1,000, $1,200 premiums anymore. And I guess leading into that, a myth in insurance, you're not locked in at a premium every single year. Premiums rise. We could see them rise even more as more natural disasters continue to happen coast to coast. And that, I mean, that's been my biggest challenge. It's definitely been something I've been able to work with, but it is tricky. It's hard when you want to help people.
What is it? The more we suffer, the more we care. I think that's someone wise said that one. Don't quote me.
Yeah.
What has been your favorite moment so far in the insurance industry?
My favorite moment so far, it kind of hit me. So I was doing a whole day in Colorado Springs. I had driven down an hour south to go meet with some people I had already gotten in contact with the month before, and I was meeting new people as well. And as I was driving down, it kind of hit me that like, oh my gosh, like I'm making my way up. I had 7 leads in that one day, and it was amazing. And the people that I got in contact with were fantastic. And it was finally like that realization point, because getting into this business was scary after coming from a wellness standpoint, a physical wellness standpoint. I was a little nervous and I wasn't sure how I would take off, but that one day I was like, oh my gosh, I'm doing good. I'm doing good. I'm working with people that have already sent me leads before, and they're happy with what I've done, and I'm doing a good job. And that was probably like my favorite moment on the side of being able to meet a lot of great people, because I mean, that truly is the perk of being able to meet all these wonderful people. But that one day made me realize like, oh my gosh, I'm doing good. I'm actually doing a good job. So it was exciting.
Yeah, proof of concept. I think that's very important, especially in a referral type business, sales especially. It's just like, well, where's the business coming from? But if you have 7 leads that you're about to meet up with, and of course, that's going to feel amazing. Something that you'd want to tell somebody you were meeting for the first time that was asking for your expertise on insurance. What's one big thing you'd want to tell them about?
One thing that I completely didn't even think about until getting into the job was making sure that you are covered well, especially under liability. I am guilty as charged of just doing the minimal liability on my auto before I got into the job. And then after I started learning about it, I started realizing how important it is to not only have amazing liability on your auto, but also on the house. I did not realize that someone just slipping and falling on their driveway could lead into kind of like a domino effect of medical payments and legal payments that could come back at you, the owner, if you didn't have good liability. I just always assumed that was just for me, the owner, if I hurt myself on my property, not for others. I feel like for people getting into insurance, honing in on the liability aspect of everything, super important.
More of a legalese term, I guess. Like from people who aren't lawyers, it's just like, well, who's liable, right? Who is responsible, in other words, for these damages? Who is responsible for making this like it was before, right? So I think that that's a lot of times people don't think about that when they're paying insurance each month. They're like, well, I haven't even used my insurance, or for 6 months, and they should be paying me, and well, there's all kinds of those arguments. So that is really good. Understanding liability. Did you have any other words of wisdom you'd like to share specifically about either your journey or just insurance in general with the viewers today?
Insurance in general, if it's not with me, if anybody in your area, like, look for a broker when you're shopping for insurance. I wish I knew about that before jumping into it, because I would just log on to an app and I would just go with whoever was like the big name at that time to look for my insurance. But with a broker, they're able to shop you around however many carriers that they have in their system, and they will find you the best rate that you may not even have known about if you didn't go through them. So shop with a broker, they'll take care of you. You'll be in good hands.
It's now my turn to talk about insurance and so forth. So I will go ahead by starting talking about my journey. So I got insurance initially back in February of 2011. That was a long time ago. And I did customer service. So did that for 12 years and 9 months to be precise. Quite a long time doing insurance. Lots of changes, like Mia was talking about, lots of challenges with bigger weather conditions and so forth. When I got started, it was just auto insurance. So that's all we did. It was high risk. So non-standard is what that's called. People who have really bad driving records. And then we insured them. And then we got shifted over where I had to learn property insurance and I had to learn umbrella and I had to learn power sports, like for all the special mobiles, RVs. I have been doing the loan officer thing here for about a little over a year at this point. That's when I got licensed, was January of 2024. Going from insurance to this, didn't exactly choose that. There was a bit of an HR debacle, and that didn't work out for me with the insurance. I've always wanted to do something in finance. I've been really interested since, like, I want to say 2020. I was getting into all the YouTubers that do finance, like Graham Stephan and Andre Zick. I said, but what would I do in the finance space? Like, am I going to be a banker? Do something that involves investing? Like, what exactly can I do? And then I thought, and I said, everyone's going to want to buy a home at some point, at least most people, I feel. But at the time, I was like, you know what? Yeah, mortgages sounds good. It's personal finance, but it's also something I don't have to sell too hard. So I thought about that too. Sales, I was never really into the sales. I tried doing a sales thing, trying to convince somebody that this is what they need, and trying to make that seem like this is really what's good for them. Hey, it might be, but it just really wasn't for me. I haven't really been super aggressive though until I did a lot more training because, man, mortgages, there's so much to know. So I went ahead and took like most of last year just learning, taking courses, talking with other loan officers, working with other people in the industry to really sharpen my mind and figure out, okay, if I'm going to help people get a home, where are they going to get hung up? What are they not going to understand? And how can I help elevate not only their understanding, but making sure they're making the right financial choices because this is something they're going to be locked in for 15 to 30 years, somewhere in that range. And that's a long time commitment. But also, what are the ups and downs of owning a house? And maybe renting is better. As a loan officer, I should probably never say that, right? But I don't believe that. I believe in fiduciary. Fiduciary is a bigger term for your financial needs are more important than my own if you're my client, right? That's essentially what that means. I'm not held to that, legally speaking. I feel like that's the way to go. That's important
Yeah.
to me as a person. So yeah, that's basically been my journey there. But I realized that when you're getting a home, insurance is going to be really important. That's one of the big four as far as what makes up your monthly premium for most people that are going to go through an escrow account to pay for their mortgage. Part of it is insurance. The lender will pay that up front in a lot of cases, pay it in full, and then they'll get paid back when you're paying your mortgage over the year. It's folks like Mia that can help you if your insurance seems high, because that's one of those factors that we as the lenders can't control. Right? Taxes and insurance are the two things. So if your insurance seems high, maybe that's one of the factors that increased. You should work with someone like Mia in order to make sure you're getting the insurance you need, as well as the insurance is going to make sense with your budget, because I think that's important too. Because even though we could cover everything, well, maybe you're willing to take that risk to not cover that thing to save a little money. There's that, do you have peace of mind, right? That's the thing. It's like, do I feel comfortable doing this? Because you could get a comprehensive and collision or physical damage, as it's called. You can get that on an older vehicle, let's say 10 years old. Is it worth it? In my opinion, probably not. But hey, you know what? To each their own, because maybe it's worth it to you because you feel more comfortable driving, knowing, oh, I've got a deductible of $100 and then they're going to cover everything. That's really expensive, by the way, in most cases. But hey, that's a thing that some people do because that's what makes them more comfortable while driving their vehicle on the road. What I can tell you from doing insurance for so long is understanding why it is we pay for insurance. I think that's the big one because even I, like me, I was like, what am I doing spending money on insurance? I have a car, and aside from registration, why do I have to pay this monthly thing? I don't have to work. At 15, I got to work now. Younger me definitely would have not have fully understood, like, okay, well, if there's a loss, if something happens that you are liable for, that you're responsible for, then insurance is going to pay most of that, if not all of that, depending on your coverages, depending on the situation. And so I didn't realize that. I just didn't know. Tell me about umbrella policies. I couldn't have told you that when I was little. None of that made any sense to me. And we talk about property values versus insurance values. They're two different things. And so, seeing as I'm a loan officer and we're talking about insurance here, basically, you don't necessarily have to insure your home for the Zillow value of your home. To make that real simple, like what is the cost of labor and what is the cost of parts, materials, if you will, at that time? And that's truly being what's known as insured properly, so to speak. Now, I'm sure Mia's probably got more to say about that because it's been a couple of years since I've been in that gig. But yeah, generally that's something to keep in mind. People think, well, my house is worth this much, and because they're checking, online. But in actuality, to ensure that's actually a lesser number in a lot of cases.
I would love to hear more about your switch and the challenges from becoming an insurance agent to a lender. How did you manage all of that? And did you come into any hiccups while you did that?
Absolutely. The shift from just the stability of working for an insurance company to being my own boss and owning my own company and being a mortgage lender, yeah, it's a pretty big shift. I'd say some of the similar challenges that Mia's already talked about, I've also gone through as well. But as you meet more people, grow your network, and as you find more places where you can help, because I think the more you know, the more you can help. And then the more you can help, obviously your value goes up and then word gets around, right? So that for me was probably the biggest shift was like, well, where can I find a value and how can I add that to other people in my surrounding area?
You mentioned adding value just a moment ago to your mortgage side of everything. How do you feel like the added value aspect was put into your insurance career side of things? Like where did you find value in that career and how did you apply that value to your clients then?
I can talk from a point of authority, I suppose, when it comes to the coverages. Like I understand a lot of the coverages. For example, one really awesome little comparison for homeowners insurance that I learned. If you're wondering what the coverage C is in a property homeowners insurance, that is personal property. And everyone's like, well, what do you mean by personal property? And it's like, well, if a giant picked up your house and shook it, anything that falls out, guess what? That is personal property. So it's anything that's not permanently attached to the structure. Coverage B, those are things around the house. Okay. Those are the other structures, right? Coverage A, well, that's the one that everyone's going for the insurance for. It's the structure itself. Coming from that point of authority, I feel is very important because then I can kind of direct like what they need to be looking at, what they need to be focused on. Obviously, I'm not licensed anymore, so that probably isn't the greatest thing, but at least I have a familiarity, right? So going forward,
Right.
there's a familiarity that I can hopefully help someone get the right decision. Or if I'm working with Mia, for example, I can give her a heads up. Hey, by the way, I don't know all the things that are going on to this day, but most likely it's going to be a HO3 or HO6 or whatever whatever it is. If I work condominiums, for example, that kind of thing.
I think it's great that you're able to kind of put both of those together. And I feel like it helps. Like you see a lot of people in our industry either become realtors and lenders, and some people do everything. I've seen insurance agents as lenders and realtors too. And I don't know how they even do that. I don't know how they put that together. With all your experience, what would be like one huge word of wisdom that you would share with your clients as they're navigating the insurance process when buying a home?
Okay. Well, I think I kind of piggyback off of what you said earlier about liability. I think that's huge, right? It's just understanding that if someone visits your home and they slip and fall, by default, you are responsible for that. So they could press charges. And if they do, you need insurance. Now, if you're going to get a mortgage, you will need insurance because the lender is trying to reduce risk. And that's another thing about insurance that I want people to understand is that's what it's for. It's to reduce or eliminate risk. That's why when we're driving without insurance, that is riskier than driving with insurance. It's also against the law. So I don't recommend anybody do that. But as far as the mortgage game, the homeowner side of things, most lenders, if not all lenders, will require that you have homeowners insurance because, again, it reduces the whole situation where, let's say, the whole house goes up in flames, God forbid, and now you're at ground zero. Right? There's nothing there, just a foundation. Maybe even that's ruined. And it's like, well, do you have the money to rebuild that home? No. Well, you're still paying a mortgage. Well, how's that going to work? Oh, well, that's a good question. You didn't have insurance. So that's a problem. Now, I doubt that's ever going to happen, given that most lenders require that. So obviously, that is probably not the case. But once you pay off the house, that's why it's still important to have the insurance policy, because then you don't have to come out of pocket for that worst case scenario. And we can't tell the future, right? If we had a crystal ball and we could see the future, then obviously insurance would be pointless. But we don't have that. And just like the stock market and what it's going to do, crypto and what its future is going to look like, or any kind of success of any kind of business adventure that you may pursue. You just don't know what the future holds. So your best idea is to pay ahead. You pay a little bit of premium, and then a lot is covered. That's generally the best way I can look at insurance as far as how it's important and what I hope people understand after watching this video today.
That is fantastic. And I like that you're looking at the longevity of everything instead of just like this singular moment when they are shopping for insurance. You're making sure that they know 15 years, 30 years from now why the insurance is important. And that puts them in a good place when they are shopping around, knowing like what they are getting into before they even go to their insurance agent. I think that's wonderful. What was your favorite part about being an insurance agent, and what do you miss about that?
Woo! My favorite part was being knowledgeable and being able to help people make the right decision about their coverages. I thought that that's something I'm hoping to take into the mortgage industry, is that same kind of feeling. It's like, hey, they're making the right choice about their mortgage, right? Same as they're making the right choice with their coverages because they're knowledgeable about their coverages. They understand that if they're going to pay a little bit more, it's not because, oh no, I have to pay more for my insurance and it sucks. No, I'm paying more for my insurance because that's what makes me feel good about the unknown. I'm driving my car. I know there's a lot of accidents that happen. Let's say it's out of Detroit, Michigan. There's a lot of accidents there for whatever reason, and insurance is really high there for auto insurance. At least it was when I was in the insurance gig. And so because of there's more statistics, more probability, because you're thinking, how can the insurance industry charge a premium for something that they too don't know? Well, that's a good question. It's all based on what has already happened, right? It's kind of like forecasting, weather forecasting. It's not going to be 100%, because nothing ever is, honestly, but it's definitely not going to be. And it's also going to impact you if you're living in an area where there's more accidents and more claims that are occurring. So something else I hope people grasp from that. But the knowledge, right? Making those knowledgeable choices, back to the question there, it's like I want that for the mortgage as well, the mortgage industry, when I'm helping someone finance their home, I should say.
Yeah.
And then go from there as far as like later on down the line. Do we want to do a refinance? Maybe we want to do cash out refinance so that they can do a renovation to the home. They want to increase the value of the home. Maybe they're thinking about selling it in a couple of years, and that's a part of their plan. Maybe they want a risky product, like an ARM, they call that, an adjustable rate mortgage, where it's like at a certain point, your mortgage interest rate will change with the markets. Obviously, most people try to avoid that when that happens. So maybe they're only going to be in the home for 5 years. All right, cool. Well, let's make it to where you're only in there for 5 years. You get the lowest interest rate possible using an ARM, but then you're at the 5 year mark, sell, you move on. That was your plan. If not, we need to refinance that into something more stable, something that's a fixed rate, that kind of thing. So I'm hoping to bring that same kind of knowledge, same kind of expertise, if you will, to the experience.
6 months from now, are what is your biggest hope career wise on your end with your clients? What is your 6 month goal moving forward?
My 6 month goal would be that for each of those months, at minimum, I help somebody get financed for a home. Now, I know the housing market at this point of recording, it's kind of higher interest rates. I know that's turning a lot of people off. But as far as when is the right time to buy, because someone may ask that, I'm like, when's the right time to buy a house? Well, when is the right time for you? And that's the answer. It doesn't matter what the market's doing. It doesn't matter what the interest rate is. If you're ready to buy a home, then it's the right time. Now, what does ready mean? Well, that's another story. But that's something we can talk about, right, as we progress. But as far as my goal is that at least to have help one family or one people, groups of people, whatever it is, get the homes they need in each of those months or more. I mean, obviously, more is always merrier. And I don't say that because it's like, oh, well, he doesn't get paid if he doesn't close. Well, it's like, well, of course. But at the same time, it's like, Why does that matter? If I'm not doing a good job or I'm not doing a job at all, then yeah, I don't deserve to be paid. There's no value there to give, right?
Right.
So to me, I think that's very important. So that would be at minimum. And I guess at most, my goal would also be to where I can make a hire in my company, hire someone to help me with the phone calls or to help me with the organization of my calendar and emails and all the types of things. So I realize that a business can only grow once you start inviting more people in order to help make, I mean, where I'm focusing on just the loans and all the stuff coming across the desk as opposed to wearing all the hats like I am right now. It's just me, you know. So I
Yeah.
think that would be another long-term goal so I can afford to pay, give someone a job and also afford to pay for their expenses as they help me grow my business. If you're going to file a claim, let's say you need to, you're got into an auto accident, your home had some damage from a hailstorm, like Mia was talking about, the hail in Colorado. I'm sure that's insane. Well, you'll need to file a claim. That's what you're going to use your insurance. That's what that means, guys. You're going to call your insurance claims office and you're going to tell them what happened. And I'm going to tell you right now, the more information you have, the better chances are that your claim will be paid out in the right amount that it needs to be. Because there's this big thing called fraud, and that's why they have to be very strict about it. Obviously, you want to keep all your ducks in a row and you want to try and get as much information, much evidence about what happened as possible. So that way, when a claims adjuster, so you make the claim and then they assign that claim to a claims adjuster, and that's somebody who's going to go and investigate your claim. So whether that's going through all the paperwork, all the pictures, or actually physically going to a location and investigating the damages themselves, probably some combination thereof, to validate your claim. And then the insurance ultimately, that claims adjuster will ultimately decide, are we paying out on this claim and for how much? So that's why it's also important to be insured before, remember, before. If you've ever been to Vegas and they're calling out and they're saying, hey, this insurance on your bets, before we show what cards, did you win, did you lose? I don't know, maybe. So insurance before it happens, then that way you can be covered. And then that way you can file your claim and go through that process. And obviously, integrity is the most important thing. I say that for everything, but definitely with insurance. Dear God, yes, just be honest about what is going on. Don't try to pull a fast one, okay? Because at the end of the day, if they catch that, they won't pay out. And if that happens to you, that's unfortunate, especially if there was some damage. Just treat it like, okay, look, I'm reaching out for help. That's what this is. I need this to be put back where it was. That's why I got insurance for this thing, whatever it is. And of course, there's the weird things that people insure, which are called floaters. It sounds like a terrible name for anything. Floaters. All right. Well, there's celebrities, there's athletes, and they're famous for something. So let's say, for example, a musician and a guitarist, and they insure their hands because without the hands, well, they're pretty much out of a job, right? They don't have any means to do what they do, what they're known for. And these policies are really expensive, like they're just ridiculously expensive, most likely. But why it's important for this guitarist is that if a freak accident happens, he loses a finger. Well, he's going to be able to live off of his insurance policy he had, the floater policy, for his hands. I don't know to what depth that is, because believe me, these are all probably manually underwritten. So that means, someone's physically going, now the system's not doing it. This isn't based on past data. This is based on something else. What? I couldn't tell you. I didn't really dig too far into the floater realm, but I just know the same with some, I think NFL football players, right? Here in the United States, they insure their hair, right? Some sort of ritualistic or important thing for them is their hair, so they insure that.
Right.
So something that most people don't know a whole lot about, or vocalists and their vocal cords, whatever is their well-being that keeps them afloat with their finances, you pretty much could insure just about anything. But again, integrity and weird insurance policies there. That's some of the things that I could just go, hey, you know what? I bet you people don't know about that.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, I want to piggyback on the floater
Yeah.
conversation as well too, because I feel like those aspects or those examples of floaters that you just mentioned are spot on and actually shocking. I didn't know that people could have an insurance floater before coming into this for things like their hands, hair. eyes, lips, legs. It's crazy that what you can insure as an insurance agent. But one thing that I've stumbled upon with my clients is people not realizing that, going back to the personal property, that not everything that you can shake out of the house is completely insurable. I've had a few people come to me needing wine collections insured
Hmm.
and gun collections insured, and those are all put under separate floaters. But there is a catch to it. It can be a little bit of a tricky thing to insure because a lot of carriers do require serial numbers for every single gun and every single bottle of wine. And it can be a little tricky. And some people give a little pushback, especially if they don't want their guns to be regulated. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people don't realize that there's more to just the things that you can shake out of your house that you can insure. Like if you have expensive jewelry, expensive watches, the wine collection, the gun collection, anything of major value that you might have to ask yourself, is this insurable? Ask your agent. More times than not, those things will need to have their own separate floater.
And I think depending on the carrier, they may have some sort of special attachment amendment type thing that they can do. Obviously, your mileage may vary, but to your point about special items, right? Well, let's say it's an autographed baseball from some baseball player that's maybe dead or something. It's like, well, that thing's probably worth more than the baseball is. So how do you guarantee that I'm going to get paid out what I'm going to get paid out if that's damaged in a fire? Well, that's where appraisals come in. Appraisals are very important. When we get to jewelry, that's extremely important. There's like a bunch of the C's, they say, the carat, the cut, the bunch of the stuff. There's a bunch of rules on that. Floaty territory, if you will, when we're talking about
Floaty
specific items.
territory.
Yeah, yeah. I know it's just
Right.
terrible. I can't, there's no way to make that sound good. It's
I
boat territory. No, I don't know.
know.
It's its own special thing. It's not attached to anything, essentially. That's the idea they were trying to go.
No,
But
that's
yeah, no,
good.
that's it's very, very important. Appraisals. So yeah, you got a Charizard there, first edition Charizard. Yeah, Pokemon, let's go. And it's like, well, let's get that appraised and then let's have that on file with your insurance, whoever's insuring that. That's very important. That way, if something happens, you're going to get yours. All right. I'm not sure with the timing and stuff and how that goes. I'm sure that has to be kind of relooked at every few years. But either which way, I guess that's all we had regarding our journeys with insurance. So thanks everybody for joining us today. We hope you learned a thing or two about insurance and its importance. If you'd like to work with Mia, I will put her information right over there near her face on the screen at this moment. And of course, if you'd like to work with me as a loan officer, my information will be right here. Now, if you reach out to me and you say, "Hey, I will need insurance," I'm going to send you to Mia, okay? Because she's going to be the one to help you with that, okay? But she'll do a great job and she'll make sure you get taken care of. So either which way, again, thanks for joining us here today. My name is David Dowd.
Mia, thank you so much for joining us today.
And with that being said, guys, we hope you have a great day and take care until next time. Bye, guys.
Bye bye.